Hey, gorgeous. Welcome to the Healing Elevates Relationships podcast. I'm your host, Bernadette Jackson, CEO and Lead Strategist at H.E.R Consulting Group and the creator of Her Way Relationship Intensive course. This podcast was created as a response to my desire to redefine how the world views women with daddy issues. I release a new episode every week, so expect to hear me and my guests discussing topics, sharing stories, and gaining insights from the perspective of a fatherless daughter and the people who love and support us. If this is your first time here, here's what I want you to know. You deserve amazing relationships, and nothing you've done or experienced disqualifies you from that. But here's the thing. Amazing relationships with others happen after you cultivate an amazing relationship with yourself. And how do you do that? Self-discovery, healing, and accessing your authenticity. Let's dive in. Hey, y'all. So I just want to tell you guys how excited I am to continue working on this series that I have coming up for Couples Appreciation Month. This episode, we have Philip and Felicia, and they met in 2016 and got married in 2018, blending a family of 8. If they were to describe their relationship, it would be love is an action. They are both two individuals made up of different experiences, ideas, achievements, and disappointments that have partnered to grow together in every aspect of life. Felicia Johnson is a trauma recovery specialist with an incredible story of inspiration. And Philip Johnson is a retired military service member. And both are serial entrepreneurs who have a heart to see people get unstuck from what is holding them back from moving forward. Philip and Felicia, thank you guys so much for being here, and welcome to the Healing Elevates Relationship podcast.
Thank you for having us.
Appreciate you having us here.
Of course, of course. So I want to start off with you, Felicia. When we spoke briefly, you told me that you were taken away from your father.
Right.
And I thought that this was a really interesting story, because whenever I speak about fatherlessness, I don't really highlight that as a possible reason. So can you talk to us a little bit about your experience?
Yes. So at age 7, I was with my mother at the time, living with my mother. And I was taken away from the state of Florida and placed in the foster care system because of physical abuse and sexual abuse that was going on while I was in custody with my mother. My father knew nothing about it. He was in service as well, military. And there was no communication from my mother. So it was years went by where my father didn't know where I was.
Wow.
I guess the communication with my mother was she wasn't telling him what was going on. So he ends up finding out by, I guess, just asking questions from family members as well as the state, and end up finding out that I was in foster care.
Okay, so you said that you were taken away from your father because there were some things that were happening in the home with your mom that obviously were very unhealthy, and it sounds as if it was a situation that you really needed to get out of. So number one, I'm so glad that you were able to escape that situation, even though where you ended up was probably less than ideal. However, how did that, in terms of what you experienced, affect how you viewed men and the possible relationships that you could have with them? Because I know that it had to have affected your psyche in some way.
Oh, that's a good question, Bernadette. Absolutely. So I believe how it affected me was like, as a child with my child mind, I was like, okay, I knew I always had my dad in my life because I would visit my dad. I knew my dad. So for me, it was like, okay, when is my dad coming to get me? When is my dad coming to save me? Yeah. And as I got older, I realized that he was never going to come. And it was like, okay, so I'm growing up, I have a dad, and it's like, you're not there. And it felt like I was unwanted, felt like I was a bother. And so psychologically, it was like, for me, my view of men, it was like, oh, you can't be trusted. Like you're automatically cannot be trusted. You're suspect, meaning you're just suspicious.
Yeah.
You will always run away. You will never confront issues head on because you'll run away from them. So that was my belief. And I felt like you weren't strong enough to, basically where I come from, you wasn't strong enough to hang in the paint. Like you wasn't. So that's how it affected me, because at heart, when I was a little girl, I thought I was a daddy's girl.
Yeah.
But when all of that happened with my mother, it was like, okay, I'm looking for this one man to come and protect me, and you're nowhere to be found to protect me.
Yeah. And honestly, like, as I'm hearing you tell your story, to me, I feel like I would have really felt the same way, because it's like, you have thoughts of your father being the protector, being the person who covers you and stuff like that. And when you're at your most vulnerable, with what you shared earlier, you expect that your father is going to come in and save you, you know? So when it doesn't happen and you don't understand why, and you haven't been given any explanation as to where your father is, because that's the other thing that I'm hearing.
Yes.
It's like, in your mind, you just feel like you were abandoned, that your father doesn't care. And you never even understand really that your father didn't even know.
Absolutely.
And so, and that's the thing that really plays with it. So Philip, when you hear your wife talking about this, what thoughts come to mind for you?
Love, because one of the things is that, I didn't understand, but I knew when we were getting together, some of the things that she's told me. And I was like, I know I had to show her show her love rather than just tell her love. And that's why I want, we talk about love as an action, because you can say I love you all the time, but if you're beating on me, that's not love. Right. If you're cheating on me, that's not love.
True.
You know what I'm saying? So if you don't respect me and honor me, we don't respect and honor each other, that's not love. So at the end of the day, we always said that, we have to play this action, and then it was just a dynamic that, I got from my inner man to say, hey, listen, you're going to have to show her what love is regardless, because she probably have never seen love from a man that really cares for her. You know what I'm saying? So I just really opened myself up, in that arena, because I knew, hearing her story, it broke me and it hurt me. And I was like, well, how can not rescue her or save her, but how can I be the man in her life to be strong enough to be there to the end? So, and that's my mindset now is, a lot of people start the race. I think we was talking about doing a marathon. We're doing a walk, and a lot of people start that marathon walk, but not everybody gonna finish out. You know what I'm saying? And we have to finish out the race, because the prize at the very end is greater, and I believe that.
Yeah, I love what you said there, where the two of you have a commitment that love is an action. So with that, is that something that you discussed prior to marriage in terms of like what those actions look like, so that when you are doing something, I actually feel loved, and vice versa? Because, a lot of times we think about, the 5 love languages, and we typically want to give somebody love in the way that we want to receive it. And if that person does not feel loved in that way, you think that you're doing all the things, you're loving on them like to the hills, and they're just like, this is not me. I don't like this. I'm not feeling what I need to feel, So did you guys actually talk about like what love in action looks like for the both of you, so that when you are expressing love to each other, you actually feel loved?
Yes.
Okay, so when we first got together, we had a lot of questions, because I always say that we both come from different experience with 2 different mindsets, two different everything, right? And so for me, I was like, I don't want to be in a relationship, because that's honestly how it started. It was like, I don't want to be in a relationship. I just want to friendship. Yeah. He was just doing all the right things. And you know, when you're as a survivor, when you doing all the right things, you just waiting for something bad to happen.
Yeah. You're in
So
this perpetual, like, you know, the shoe is about to drop. I'm gonna just wait for this other shoe to drop, because I know.
For it.
Yes.
And I was waiting for it, but every time I was waiting for it, it was always something that was shown that, okay. But we did talk about everything. We talked about, from just because we're a blended family and we're bringing children, and we don't have older children. All our children are under 12. And so we were bringing that dynamic. Then we both have been hurt by previous relationships. And so we kind of talked about, for me as well as him, talked about, okay, this is what I like and this is what I don't like. And as we have been married for a couple of years now, even I realized that we are changing how we love each other. Right. And so now I'm able to say, well, I don't feel love when you did that, because don't get it twisted. We do have our rough days. We do have our bad days, but at the same time, it's not about having those bad days. It's moving forward from those bad days, talking about those bad days. And hey, this is how I feel. This is how you felt when this happened. And I didn't feel love when that happened. So I think it's always a progression, and you always growing, especially when you're in a relationship with a significant other, and expressing how you want to be loved and how you receive love and feel love.
Yeah, absolutely. I get that. So when you were in the foster care system, I'm not sure how long that was, but did you see the adults in your life, especially the women, experiencing healthy love?
That's a good question. So I seen both good and bad dynamics. I seen unhealthy marriages and I seen healthy marriages. When I saw unhealthy marriages, I realized, okay, I don't want that. The cussing out, the bickering back and forth, the in public bickering back and forth, the craziness that come, like the love and hip hop scene of love.
Mashing in the windows.
Yeah, like I didn't want that.
Phones.
I felt like, okay, I didn't want that. Like, I can't trust you, or, oh, I'm worried about you cheating, or even the unhealthy love of, oh, I hang around a lot of older women as well. So the unhealthy that I seen was, oh, I'm it's better to have a man than no man at all. And I'm like, you might as well just be by yourself. What are you talking about? Right. And so I seen that and I was like, no, I don't want that. But the healthy relationships that I did see was where they were communicating with one another, that they, even when they had their great days and their bad days, they were able to communicate. And that was something that I seen, that they communicated. It doesn't matter what it was, they were communicating. So I did see two different dynamics growing up in foster care system.
Yeah. So with that, then, with the different dynamics that you saw, did it affect what you thought was possible for yourself in relationship?
That's good. So I'm not going to sit here in front. I didn't think marriage was possible. I ain't going to sit here and lie. But I was like, I always admire those marriages that were like 60 years and 70 years, like in the paint. And then I was like, maybe marriage ain't my type, because this generation and these generation type different. They principles and values kind of different. But I always admire and wanted that and desired it, because I feel like everybody wants to feel some type of love, especially in that form of relationship with a significant other. Because we do have different types of relationships, whether it's your coworkers, whether it's your children, whether it's peers. But I think that relationship with a significant other, I believe that some people, most people would want that. So yeah, I did. I wanted it, but I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna get there. If it happened, it happened. If it don't, it's out.
I get that. I feel like that's real. I'm
when
sorry,
we
Philip.
when we were dating. I know the book gonna drop sooner or later. I call it the running syndrome. She will always run. I'm gonna talk about it now.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to just I told her, I said, she would, get upset or, get, angry or something like that. She'll just leave.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, and I always tell her, she'll call me and say, well, can I come by? And I think one night she left me. I was in my bed. After the first couple of times, I say, hey, listen, I'm here and I'm going nowhere. But this is why I kept encouraging her that I'm not a word person, I'm an action person. So love is showing me something, and I'm gonna show you that I love you. And I think one night she left and she went somewhere for a couple of hours. I'm in my bed asleep. And she said, oh, can you open the door? I never even got up. I said, the door had been open. I said, just do me a favor. I said, if you're gonna leave next time, can you leave your shoes at the door? I said, let me know what you're doing. You're gonna leave it in the closet and leave it at the door. In other words, what I was saying is this: we have in relationships, we all tend to want to run when it gets too heat, when it's not the way we want it, when we don't see it the way we want. And my thing was always to say to her, hey, listen, I'm here. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to put on your running shoes to leave. You know what I'm saying? We can work it out. Whatever the situation is, we can work it out. And again, what my wife said was funny because she said, I remember her saying that to me one day. She was like, I think you're suspect. And I said, suspect? I said, what you mean? She said, well, you're doing too much. And I'm like, I'm not doing anything. I went home, I went to work, I had my kids, and that was it. My thing is, it was just, that was just who I was. But my thing is, I think I got to a point that I was just tired. And I think we came into a point where we were both just tired of just being her and tired of just being in a relationship. And I was like, hey, listen, if you're ready, I'm ready. You know what I'm saying? I didn't force her, I didn't push her. I said, when you're ready, I'm ready. But my thing is, I tried to give her everything I could, open up as much as I can so she can realize and understand that I'm here for the long haul. You know what I'm saying? So, and that's one of the things that we have to do is sometimes we have to humble ourselves, even when, because we never know what a person goes through and we never know their situation. So sometimes we have to say, you know what, let me just go ahead and just, humble myself, or let me sacrifice what I really want because I really see something great in our relationship that we can build on. You know what I'm saying? And I'm grateful that she took that leap of faith and say, hey, listen, she wanted to be in a relationship after all the hurts, after all the discouragements and all the people that put her through things. She was saying, hey, listen, I'm willing to learn how to love. And that was the thing. I always told her that. I said, a lot of people don't try. But one thing I respect about my wife is that she always tried to understand, well, how do I love? Because I haven't seen that type of love before. So how do I love? And that's when we did a lot of, talking. So our communication grew stronger in the beginning because we talked, even though my wife is not a talker.
I'm not.
I am. So it's like, so it's like I'm trying to talk to her and she was like, that's not me. Because, of course she was hiding her emotions, her feelings because she don't want to get hurt. And I don't understand that. But, like I said, we will always try to push and encourage. Let's try to talk. And let's do this right, So I'm always grateful for the fact that we actually came together and when we dealt with the communication part first. You know what I'm saying? I always tell anybody, when you're in a relationship, communication is one of the biggest things in any marriage. I mean, I know people that's been married for 50, 60 years, one speaks Spanish, one speaks English. But even though they had different in communication, they still communicated. You see what I'm saying? So, and that was just the key for us.
And then another thing I would say from a person that has been through trauma and just the whole experience of it, for me, it was like, I realized that some of the things that I was viewing, that I had a filter over my eyes. I was looking at it through a trauma perspective and my experience perspective. And so sometimes things would happen or situations would happen in our relationships. And I'm like, I might be looking at this through a trauma response or a trauma perspective.
Right.
Maybe let me try to hear him out, because it might be something there for me to learn or to see differently.
Yeah, I actually love that you said that, because it brings me to a couple of things. So when I was listening to you both, the first thing that I thought about is that fatherless daughters tend to have this idea that they're going to leave a situation before they get left. You know, like, because we have a fear of abandonment, and that's a knee-jerk reaction. Like the fear of abandonment and rejection is there just because of the trauma that we've experienced. And one of the defense mechanisms that we like build as a coping mechanism for ourselves, so that we don't have to go through the feeling of being abandoned again, especially in a situation that is completely outside of our control, which is like when it happens from a parent. We developed this mechanism, this defense mechanism, where if something looks like it's about to end, if something looks shaky, if it don't look like what I envisioned in my mind, I'm finna leave this thing before I get left. And so when you were talking about the fact that, you know, your wife always used to leave, that's what it was. Like, that's an innate, like, survival mechanism that we have. And I've spoken to so many women, and they say the same things. Yeah, like, you know, I will leave a situation, I will cut somebody off, I will, you know, end a relationship without a word if I get a whiff that this thing could end badly for me. And it's just something that's done because what we don't want is to settle into a relationship, feel like we're safe, feel like we're getting all the things, so this person is not going anywhere, and then all of a sudden the rug is ripped from underneath us, you know?
Absolutely.
That right there is like a pain that is, you know, where we are almost reliving the fact that our father wasn't there, or we didn't have that relationship, or whatever it is. So I completely understand, you know, that knee-jerk reaction or that fear-based response that Felicia had in the beginning, because it's just something that we almost feel is protecting our heart from possible harm and danger. So I totally get that.
Too often as survivors of trauma, you morph into who you need to be to survive. The problem with this defense mechanism is that even when the time has passed and the pain of the trauma has subsided, you are still wearing your mask. Your most authentic self is tucked away far beneath the surface, and although you yearn for deep connection, very few people know the real you. With everything you've experienced, it can be hard to take off that mask and be free. And let's be honest, sometimes it's easier and safer to have it on. That's why I wrote Access Authenticity. This 75-day journal and strategic guide will guide you through over 170 deep reflective questions so that your most authentic self can stop being your secret identity and start being your truest identity. You deserve amazing relationships, but you won't experience them if nobody ever gets to see the real you. Head on over to Amazon today and get your copy of Access Authenticity Journal Plus Strategy. Now let's get back into this week's goodness.
You were saying that there was a lot that you really had to unlearn in terms of your limiting beliefs about what you were going to do and how you were going to respond in your relationship. So talk to us, Felicia, a little bit about what some of that was so that you can actually experience the growth and prosperity in your marriage.
So one of the things that for me was a limited belief was like, he can't be trusted. And so it was really a talking to myself like, okay, why can't he be trusted? What has he shown you that he's not able to be trusted, because you're saying that he can't be trusted, but he has been. It's really asking yourself question and those probing questions. Okay, so why do you feel in this moment, why do you feel that you can't be trusted, Felicia? Because we may have gotten in a disagreement about something. Okay, so is it just a disagreement feeling, or you just feel that there's something there that he can't be trusted with? And so a lot of times it was me asking myself probing questions and saying, okay, maybe you looking at this and what you've experienced, and you're pulling that from your memory bank, and then you're trying to apply it or put it on him, and it's not that case. Maybe ask more questions from him, and even feel how you feel, and just begin talking about that, because you might be feeling a certain way, but that's might not be the true feeling. You might be pulling feelings from another experience into the situation at hand. And so I had to learn that. That was whole process.
Yeah.
That's a whole process in itself.
It is. It sounds a lot like you were doing something that I typically tell my clients to do, which is to investigate your fears. Like a lot of times we want to just have our fears, like run our lives and affect the decisions that we make and the actions that we take. When if we sit down and investigate that thing, we can see a lot of times that what we are fearing isn't actually the truth of what's happening in the moment. So you asking yourself those questions and things like that is really helping you to kind of get clear about like what's in front of you. What are you seeing? What have you been experiencing from your husband, and what's actually true? So I love that you were saying that.
Absolutely.
But I think it works both ways as well, because without me asking questions, as a lot of time with men, and I'm directly speaking to men now, is that you have to be involved. If you know you're interested in somebody, they're gonna have some past hurts and some past issues and some things that they have gone through. But if you don't confront that and think, well, I'm not even going to ask that because I don't want to get into that, because I don't want that to affect our relationship, it's going to affect your relationship if you talk about it or not. So you need to talk about it, because at the very end of the day, if I didn't know, certain triggers, I can't stop those, me doing certain things. Or she won't know, okay, that's a trigger for me, or for her. So we have, for the men, we have to be engaged. We have to be attentive to hear our spouse's voice. And a matter of fact, hear their hurt, because, sometimes they're not talking, but you got to hear their hurt. And that simply means you got to know why they're hurting, and how can you say, okay, how can I make this so she understands that, hey, I understand. I might not have been there, and I don't know what you're going through, but I empathize with you, and I want to be here to work with you. So I think on the man end, we have to be involved by saying, hey, listen, because I asked her, why what happened here? And I might have not asked her the same day, because I know she's, she'll shut down because of that issue. But, you ask her, what happened? But, I don't want to talk about it. I said, well, you got to let me in a little bit. And I used to always probably, you have to let me in a little bit. And then when she'll tell me something, I said, okay. I said, so how can we fix that in our relationship? So therefore, what happens is now it helps both of us understand, well, you know what? Although she might like, with other girls, I might be like, hey, babe, come here. But with her, me pulling her hand triggers something to say, hey, listen, I don't like you pulling my hand because of something else. So although it might be as innocent, as simple as that, you have to figure out why she don't like her hand being pulled, why she don't like her head, somebody touching her shoulder, why she want somebody touching her head. It's not, oh, she's not affectionate or she's not attracted to you. No, it's not that. You have to figure out their hurt. Their hurt is talking to you when they ignore you, or when they're quiet. So at the end of the day, what is the hurt that you're listening to win them to say, hey, listen, I understand your hurt, and I'm here to help you heal through that.
Absolutely.
And that's the key. Yeah.
Absolutely. I feel like what you're talking about is really just your intentionality with wanting to know your wife's trauma story. And that's just another layer of communication. And to
Right.
me, I feel like that kind of intentionality shows the love and action that you guys are committed to experiencing in your relationship and giving to each other.
Yes, ma'am.
A lot of what happens in healthy relationships when your norm has been unhealthy relationships or toxic relationships is what we call disconfirming experiences. And that is when you have an experience that is the complete opposite to what you're used to. So right now, this healthy relationship that your wife is in is a disconfirming experience from the traumatic experiences that she has had with her past relationships. So with that, how have you guys actually worked on accepting this new normal? What have you had to do, Felicia, in order to be able to receive your husband's love and accept that you are worthy of this, that marriage is possible for you, and that you can thrive in a healthy relationship, even
Right.
though this may be the first time you're experiencing a healthy relationship?
Ooh.
Wow.
Coach Bernadette hitting them questions like heavy.
Huh?
But I love just shooting them. But I love it, but because it's a good question. It's a great question. So one of the things, exactly what you're saying is like, this is too good to be true. And I still, even though we've been together for a while, it's still like something is going to happen. Why is it so good? Or why am I truly deserving of this? And it's really me confirming and reaffirming me that I do deserve to be loved. Like what I experienced, yeah, it happened, but I'm deserving to be loved. I'm deserving to be valued. I'm deserving to be treated like a princess, because that's how I feel. Like I deserve it. And it's not that I'm a less of a person or I deserve to be mistreated. Like it's a daily affirming and confirming I deserve to be treated well by my husband. Like I feel like it's an expectation. I deserve that my children love me. Like I deserve it. I deserve to be loved as well, vice versa. I deserve to give love and give love freely and accepting of it. And I think I don't think those feelings of doubt never goes away, but it's always affirming yourself and confirming that you're deserving. I'm deserving. I'm deserving. I am acceptable to be loved in spite of what I feel like, or in spite of what has happened to me. I'm deserving of it. And I think that is like the biggest fight, because even though everything is, is healthy, everything is good, it's like, wow, this is what this feels like to actually feel love, be loved. And then I look at it like this, is that I am the generation, I am the bloodline in my family that is creating healthy now for my children and their children. Even though it never happened in my family and it always was dysfunction in my bloodline, I am taking a stand for my bloodline to say, hey, you can be married and it can be successful. It doesn't have to be like society says. It doesn't have to be a Love and Hip Hop episode. Like it doesn't. You can actually have a healthy relationship, married. You can have a friendship in your marriage. And I feel like you're deserving of it.
Yeah, I love that, because a lot of times I feel like when we decide that we're going to go on a healing journey and we make it intentional to do things differently, we realize that we may be experiencing a lot of firsts. And because we're experiencing a lot of firsts, we understand that we are now going to have to be a different example to the generations that are coming after us, especially if they haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
And so that means that, you know, we're on uncharted territory and we really don't know what the outcome is going to be, but the commitment to being there and doing the work that's required for longevity is really where we're going to start to reap the benefits that our future generation will be able to see. So,
Exactly.
so Philip, I'd love to ask you, when you were first talking to your wife, when you were first courting her, what did you realize were some areas in her life where you needed to show a little extra love and care to, and how did you handle that? I know you spoke a little bit about just letting her know that you weren't going anywhere and whatnot, but talk to us a little bit more about what you really did to show her that, you know, this was going to be a different experience and you wanted to love and care for her a little bit more.
Oh, hey, you know what's dear, you know, what's near and dear to me is what you give them. You know what I'm saying? What's near and dear. A lot of people, they are, you know, they love their cars and they love their cars more than anything else. I think you have to give up something that's significant to you for them to understand. I mean, I think, and for me, it was just being very open, allowing her to come in and in my home whenever she wanted to, and she, you know, popped up when she wanted to, and but you know, I think one of the things is what I really wanted to start seeing, where I say, okay, you know what, I want to see if I can can this really work for me?
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that I did, and I know it's funny because I gave her my debit card,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm the type of person, I'm very frugal. I don't like, you know, my wife will tell you, when it comes to money, I like to, you know, I tell everybody, you know, everybody think, well, you know, you this and that, but my thing is I'm very frugal, and I don't like to, you know, let go of money all the time. And I was like, you know what? I think she was in town, and you know, and she was with me, and I was like, she was like, well, you know, I need to put gas in the car, and you know, get something to eat. I said, you know what? Here, take the car. And she was like, you know, of course, suspect again. You know, what is he trying to do?
Mm-hmm.
But my thing is, that was me saying, hey, listen, this is a part of me, because me having an open house, that's who I am. People pop up all the time to my house. I feed them, I cook. This is what I do. That's what I love. That's what I love to do. So it's not special if I do it for her, because it's the same thing I do for anybody else. You know what I'm saying? And so I had to do something different to show her that, hey, listen, I really love this, but I'm willing to give you this to show you how much I really love you.
Yeah, it was like a trust transfer, I think it was. But yeah, it was a trust.
It was trust transfer.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, you know, like I said, she, you know, my wife was, you know, one of the things I did, I love to eat, I love to cook, and we love to go out. You know what I'm saying? So my thing is, I remember the first time I cooked for her, she was like, you know how to cook? Because I was, you know, I'm like, yeah, I know how to cook.
Yeah, you took the time out. Like, I think it was time too. Like, you took the time out to cook for me.
Yeah.
Like, and it was,
Yeah, and I think that's what
it was. It felt good, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. Yeah. And it was good.
What you talking about? That's what your boy do. That's what your boy do. You know, but my thing is, and then she didn't ask me to cook the easiest thing. She really was like, I like oxtails. I said, you want to make your oxtails? And she was like, yeah, make me some oxtails. Now, of course, in her mind, she thinking, this dude for to mess it up, so we about to go out to eat.
Yeah.
But my thing is, you know, she's sitting here licking her fingers and all. I said, yeah, okay, I know, okay, I see. But my thing is, you know, that shows me that, hey, listen, I'm willing to make sacrifices and to open myself up as well, because I know it's a journey for you to open yourself up because of what you've gone through. So I have to let you in too as well. And I think that's a lot of times what we do as men. We just like, no, I'm not going to do that, because my thing is, you know, I think one of the biggest issue I always say is men would say, I think one of the old statement is, a man was married to his wife, and he was like, hey, she said, well, you never say you love me no more. He said, when we got married, didn't I say I love you?
Mm-hmm.
In other words, you only said one time, and he was like, I show you all the time. And that's the thing. With her, I had to show her and say it, her and say it, because she needed, I think, and I know she needed at the time, reassurance that I was not going to leave her, abandon her, or mistreat her. And then again, she was also bringing her kids into the dynamics. You're dealing with girls, so am I going to be abusive to the girls? Am I going to hurt the girls? Am I going to mistreat the girls? So if I'm mistreating her, of course she already running, because hey, listen, I can't imagine what you're going to do to my babies. So at the end of the day, the way the way I carried myself around my kids, she was like, this is unreal. But I just, my thing is, I've never had a problem with my children. I'm gonna get my kids. I'm gonna get my kids. So, and I'm gonna take care of them and spend time with them. So,
and that's one thing that I actually enjoyed, and I saw that made me feel like I can trust him, because you had Adrian Journey, and so he had a boy and a girl, and so it was just like how he loved them and showed them love and embraced them. And even when he was on his days off, he's like, oh, I'm gonna get my kids. Like it was like, I'm gonna get my kids. I'm gonna get my kids. And it was not like, oh, do you like asking me, do I like kids? Like it wasn't that. He was like, I'm going to get my kids. Like, bump what you say.
Right.
And that for me was like for a father to do that and to see that it was different.
Yeah. I bet that it was. So, Philip, knowing what your wife experienced with her own father, and I'm glad that you brought this up, how did it change, if at all, how you envisioned yourself parenting the children that you guys shared together?
Wow, that's a good question. I believe my thought was, I really wanted to not pressure them, pressure them. I wanted them to receive me and how they received me. Until they could, learn how to love me, but I was going to love them. I was loving them before they even knew it. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, and that's one thing about what she did, she didn't bring them right around me. You know what I'm saying? So my kids came around her, but she didn't bring them around me first. You see what I'm saying? So at the very end of the day, my thought was just like, okay, hey, listen, a lot of times when brothers always say, well, it's baggage. I already knew it wasn't a baggage. It was what I invested in. You know what I'm saying? I was investing in her. So I knew it was time for me to invest into them. And my whole goal was to say, listen, when I receive them, I'm going to love them like I love you. You know what I'm saying? And from the day we
day one, you met them.
Day one, my daughters has always, just took to me and I took to them. And I've really liked the dynamics of our blended family. Because, having 5 girls,
they are tea daddy.
It's heavy.
They are tea daddy.
It's heavy. And then even with my wife, because everybody wants your attention. You know what I'm saying? And it's very challenging at times to give everybody your attention. But my thing is, I really enjoy what I seen was I really want to have a family. I wanted to do something. Because my story is I came from a broken family as well, where my father and my other mother, which I've never called stepmother till years later when I got older, because I realized that I've always been mistreated by her, but because I grew up in a family of a Christian home, I've always seen it like, forgive her, forgive her, forgive her. It's not until I got older that I seen like, wow, I really was mistreated and, overlooked a lot of times. And I was like, one of the things I want to do as a father is make sure that I become a father to my children as much as to my wife's children.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So the first thing we came into saying is there's no steps. You know what I'm saying? The only step you see is the steps outside. So at the end of the day, you know, when you get in this house, we respect each other because, you know, one of my theories is always this: when people say step, it's already a disconnect, especially to young kids. You know, you're dealing with a teenager, stuff like that. You know, you say step, okay, no problem. But when you're dealing with young children, when you into that relationship and you start saying step, you already have a disconnect from them.
And then another thing, we to change our language, because a lot of times, especially with blended families, you know, the mother and the husband will come together, but it's like, don't talk to my kids like that. They my kids. It's my kids, and vice versa. And so one of the things we like kind of limit that talk at, like we just threw that out the window.
We talked about that too.
It's our, these are our children. And if we're going to have that mentality, it's like, it's no point of trying to make it work because we already putting that wedge in between it.
Right.
So.
Yeah. So
I hope I answered the question.
Oh, you did. You did. You really answered the question well. And I, as you were answering it, I was looking at Felicia and I'm just seeing her smile and everything. So just elaborate for us a little bit, like what feelings come up for you when you hear how your husband is talking about your children and just, you know, like the love that he clearly has for them and what that means for you in terms of what you may have wanted to experience yourself. And I'm certain that this is what you wanted for your children. What comes up for you when you see that? When you feel
admire, like I love watching them, watching him play with the kids. Like I admire it. Like I sometimes I just stare at them and I'm like, wow, that is amazing feeling to have to know that you're loved by your father. And sometimes don't tell my children this, but sometimes I be like, I wish I had that.
Yeah, you be a little jealous, right? You be a little jelly. Yeah.
I'm a little jealous, but you know what? Y'all deserve it. You know, you deserve it. So it's like, it feels good. And I was so careful of, okay, you love my children. And from day one, it's always been, since day one, my children, my girls have called him dad. Like since and they didn't even know him. I just felt like, I don't know, something in their heart. They met him one time and it was like, oh, that's my dad. Hi, dad. Hi, dad. And when they came together, if you look at our family, you'll be like, them y'all kids. Like all of them are y'all kids.
Yeah.
Because if you would see my children, people like, oh, she looked like you. Or his children or our children, they look like me. So it was like, just to have that, I feel like I'm blessed.
Yeah.
I'm dope.
We're dope.
Yeah.
We're dope. Yeah.
Definitely. I could not agree more. I think that you guys are dope. I love your love. I can hear just in your story and your responses that you worked so hard on the relationship that you have. And so I want you guys to think about that. Like, think about the dynamic and think about the work that it took to get there. And Felicia, then what advice would you give a newly married woman who has shared the experiences that you have?
Ooh. Be patient with yourself. It is hard, but don't stay stuck in the hard places. Be willing to take one step at a time. Even if it gets uncomfortable, embrace the uncomfortableness, if that's a word, and then just keep moving. Like, go after what you want. If you desire to have happiness, choose happiness all the way. Don't allow your experience to dictate your happiness or what you see yourself. And even if you don't believe right at that moment that you're deserving of love, keep telling yourself that you're deserving of it, because your experience lied to you. What has happened to you lied to you. And the people that have hurt you have lied to you. So believe what is in front of your face now.
Yeah, so I love that. And Philip, I want to give you the same opportunity. What advice would you give a man who has just married a woman who shares your wife's experience?
Be patient.
Mm.
Be patient. Give her space. I think that's one of the biggest things, and I had to learn was her dynamic. When she got hurt, she just shut down.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't like that at first because I felt lonely, and I felt unloved. But after a while, we've talked about it, and you got to give her space because she has to calculate in her head. She has to work it out in her head how, what should she do, or what is she doing wrong, or what he's doing wrong, or is there any wrong, or maybe it's something I'm missing. She has to work that out, and when she does, she has to come back. She comes back and say, "Listen, let's talk." I always say, let's talk about it, even if it's 2 to 3 days later. A lot of times we think we say things to hurt each other and do things, and then we be like, well, we didn't talk about it in 3 days, so I guess it's over. Not really. It's not. So talk about it because she needs it. She needs it, and you need it because you want to have a healthy relationship. And to have a healthy relationship, you want to make sure that your wife is healthy.
Right.
You can't, you think about, having a bad, you have 2 feet. If one feet is cut and you limping and the other feet is doing good, you still limping because that other feet is hurting. So you need to say, hey, listen, I need to take care of this other feet so I can walk again. So you have to take care of that other person so y'all can be whole again, because it's not going to be whole. It's just going to be a
wounded person.
A wounded person
just a wounded
hiding from another, wounded person. So we have to really look at that in a big scope.
I love that. Thank you so much for that advice. I think that my listeners are definitely going to benefit from your story and just, how openly you guys have shared your heart. So before we end, I have a segment that I like to call Bernadette's Quick Five. And so it's going to be 5 questions, and I'm going to ask you both. You answer the first thing that comes to mind. There's no wrong answers. It's just, some quick things that we can get to learn about you. So I'm going to start with you, Felicia. What is your favorite thing about Philip?
He feed me.
Okay.
He cook. He can cook, y'all. If you get a man that can cook.
Oh, God. Something wrong with you.
Philip, what's your favorite thing about Felicia?
Her laugh.
Her laugh. I love that. Okay. When you think about the quality of your love, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Consistent.
Okay. What about you, Philip?
When I think the quality of my love, what comes to mind? I don't know. Just understanding.
I like that. Yeah,
understanding.
Yeah. If there was one thing that you would not want your spouse to ever forget, what would it be? I'll start with you, Felicia.
Ooh, that's a good question. She said 5 quick questions.
5
deep questions.
This is actually my favorite color.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So I can go ahead and jump on, Go ahead, babe.
To know that I admire and I appreciate everything that he has done to love me.
Yeah.
You said that's sweet.
And Philip, what about you? What is one thing that you don't want Felicia to ever forget?
That I'm in her corner. fight for her and fight with her. Yeah, I don't want to forget that. We're doing this together.
Love that. Okay, so we're almost wrapping up now. What is one thing that you both do together that improves the connection that you have?
Oh, that's easy. Travel.
Travel.
Love that. Oh.
Yeah.
Travel.
We try to get away quick.
Mm-hmm.
Date night.
Even if we go to the grocery store.
We do date night. We just like to get away
Mm-hmm.
just together. Just simple stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Yeah.
So what's next for you both?
What's next? Other than my wife and her program, more traveling. I want to take family. I want to take my, take our children
out of country.
I want to, do a lot more investment. We have done investments. So
homeschool our children in the far future.
Yeah. Yeah.
The far future.
She ain't hear that part.
I did. But I let that part go because the homeschooling is good. I got you. You got to prepare for that. You got to work up to it.
Yeah, we got to have a whole team. You got to have a whole team for homeschooling.
Listen, you have homeschool. I'm going to go ahead and just, I'm going to have to go do, phone calls in the car.
Honestly, like with you guys being serial entrepreneurs, I'm sure that when you get your businesses to a place that you're making the type of money you want to make, you can hire a tutor to teach your kids.
Absolutely.
That's still homeschooling, so I know
That's
y'all got it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the goal. But yeah, I mean, other than that, we really appreciate this because I think couples need to know.
I think it's needed. It is needed.
It's needed. Yeah.
Yeah, it absolutely is. I'm so glad that you guys came on and gave me the opportunity to really highlight your story. And I want to give you, Felicia, an opportunity to let everyone know where they can find you.
All righty. Well, you can find me on Instagram at I am.Felicia Johnson, as well as IamFeliciaJohnson.live as my website. I'm having a upcoming retreat, May 20th to 22nd. It is Life After Trauma Retreat for trauma survivors who have experienced tough time, and it's really for them to come rest and renew and just reclaim and just get out of that environment of the hustle and bustle and just the stress of life, just to relax. So yeah, I look forward.
I could talk about me?
Oh,
of course. Get in there.
I can't with you.
We're not trying to leave you out, Philip. Come on.
Oh,
serious.
I'm sorry. I try not to be jovial all the time. But no, you can actually find me with Open Up a Halfway House. I am the commercial lender with Open Up a Halfway House. And you go to my website, J-Way Capital with a K. That's J-Way K-A-P-T-I-L, JWayCapital.com and J-Way Enterprise. If you are interested in opening up a halfway business, or interested in opening up a halfway house or starting and branding your businesses, we help set up businesses and purchase businesses and stuff like that. So, yeah.
That sounds good. And I'm going to make sure to drop all of your links in the description of the episode when it airs. So everyone will have an opportunity to know where they can find you and be able to get right into that. So thank you guys again for joining us. This has been an amazing interview. And
thank you for having us.
Oh, of course. Of course. Yeah. So I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Have a wonderful day.